Hello, everybody, and welcome back to First Ring Daily. And that noise you hear in the background, which is just went away, is not a mortar falling on Paul's head. It's actually a kettle, but not even a kettle. I don't know. It's some sort of interference between here and Ireland. Or there's
A kettle.
an actual kettle, because why wouldn't there be in Europe?
Listen, you want tea when you're in Ireland, apparently. That was my wife in the background.
Just some background. There
She
she
was
is.
having tea.
Having tea.
See, Paul, that is why you have a kettle, because your wife,
Hmm.
she wanted tea. And so, how is Ireland?
It's pretty good. Got off to kind of a bad start. We arrived here at approximately 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oof.
Like jerks. It was really at 5 o'clock in the morning, but we got in early. It was like 45 minutes early. No, we would have gotten in early anyway, right?
Mhm.
But Ireland is apparently still living in the 1700s because it's Sunday and they don't let the cleaning staff come in until 10 o'clock in the morning. So
Ooh.
we had to wait quite a while for a room. That was good.
Which is definitely what you want when you land that early in the
It's
morning.
0.0 hours of sleep.
Well, that is fantastic because, well, actually, I don't even know why. But Paul, if you magically went to China, you could buy
Mhm.
this thing, which, depending on how your camera or your screen is orientated, that is not burgundy. That is an
Mhm.
actual pink Surface laptop. You can
I
go.
don't understand why they don't just offer that everywhere.
Well, the one thing they do offer in this thing, which is one reason why you may not ever want to buy one, is this is the China-friendly version of a Surface laptop, which means that the TPM chip doesn't have your standard encryption, which also means that China can just kind of read all your stuff.
Oh, yikes. I'm assuming China's reading all my stuff as it is, so that's fine.
Yeah, but if you're okay with that, then yeah, go over to Beijing, Hong Kong, wherever you want, and you can get this. Get it for your spouse for what's that holiday in the February that we're supposed to buy flowers? Valentine's Day.
Oh, jeez. I assumed you were trying to remember some like Chinese holiday.
No, it's Monday. It's
Oh boy.
yeah. Oh boy, is exactly right. And there's a whole lot going on besides that. I'm curious why they only are selling that color there, because I do think that would sell well here. But
I think so. Yeah, you could call it rose gold.
I when I wrote this up, I was trying not to use that name because obviously that's Apple coined that, and I called it like a gold color pink, which
Well, for example, Google just came out with the new Pixel 3, and they're calling the color not pink.
mm,
Microsoft should have called this not rose gold. Hmm.
wow.
Yeah, TM. You got to protect your intellectual property.
That you do. That you do. You didn't get your Pixel 3 yet, did you?
No, it's going to be late this week. I almost said this coming week. It is already this week.
It is already Monday.
So I know. Yeah, we just met Mary Jo for lunch. I'm a little off. We got to a late start today. I was thinking I'd come back and work for a couple hours, get some stuff done. And yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this one either, but Palm is kind of back, but not really. Paul, if you've ever muttered the words, I wish I had a phone that wasn't my phone, that didn't go on my wrist, that I could wear around my neck. Palm has just the phone, not phone for you.
Oh, did they come out with a Windows Phone?
Wow. I was unaware that when you went to Ireland, you would be full of sick burns.
What's the point of this thing? I did see this. I saw the headlines.
I'm going to
it's
try
like-
to pull it up here on the background
Yeah.
because I could have done that. So it's all this thing is here.
By the way, who actually makes this? So Palm is probably like Polar.
Yeah, it's not
They're
Palm.
selling their name. Yeah. So what is this?
Somebody who bought the branding. It's kind of hard to see here, but basically it is a tiny phone. Like it's real tiny. It's like a 3-inch
Yeah.
display. And what it does is it's only available on Verizon, by the way, because that's whatever. They pitch it as a more powerful companion device than, say, a smartwatch, but a less powerful device than a smartphone. So it's literally a companion to your smartphone, And if you use certain Verizon apps, and it mostly works with Android,
Uh,
it transfers your text and everything. But the idea, Paul, is that when you're going out and you don't want to be disturbed, you can take this device instead, and it has a special mode that doesn't let you get interrupted, and you can do
I'm
less.
sorry.
And,
You're describing a device that I can pull out of my pocket that is not my phone.
right. It's pretty much.
Okay.
They're the greatest pitch they have is that you'll want to use it less because it's not a great phone, essentially.
Oh, I already want to use it less. I'm also confused why it says Pamel on the back of it. What is this?
It says Palm, you jerk. It says Palm. And so I don't even know what the retail price of this is, but you got to pay Verizon like an extra $10 a month to use it for your dual phone number thing. It's just like you look at all this stuff and you're like, you know what you really wanted there is an LTE enabled watch. If this is device you're thinking, man, I should get this. Grab an Apple Watch with LTE, and I'm sure there's an Android variant that has it as well. Grab that, and you will be twice as happy because then you don't have to use this thing.
I mean, is there like a $50 leather strap I could buy this so I could put this thing on my wrist?
Oh, I'm sure I'm sure you can find one made by like Burberry or somebody exotic like that for. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. There was something else that happened this morning. Oh yeah, the big news is Adobe announcing that Photoshop is now like not your grandma's Photoshop, but your nephew's Photoshop. Is now available, or coming soon to the iPad. They let some people play with it. This is a big deal.
This is a big deal. Yeah.
This is how they make that transition. Well, it's also a big deal too. I have to think in the back of my mind that Apple was pushing for this as well. Multiple reasons. One, they can sell more iPads that way, but more specifically, they can go upscale with iOS onto larger displays now because the Adobe Suite is usually one of those things that holds creatives back. And now that they have it running in iOS, what's going to stop Apple from shipping an iOS-enabled laptop?
I mean, I'm not switching to iPad Pro anytime soon, but this is interesting because this would enable my own workflow to actually make sense on an iPad Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you think back historically, one of the big problems that Apple faced in the early 2000s was that Adobe would not port their Photoshop product and some of their other stuff over to Mac OS X at the time. And they briefly switched to a kind of a Windows-centric strategy at Adobe. Eventually that happened, right? But some of the things that Apple did later, like boycott Flash, was a direct result of that event before. So them bringing this to iOS is that's going to change things. That's a big deal.
It really is. And I have to wonder, too. I was trying to get the image back up there. Oh, there we go. Well, because, Miracast is wonderful. It doesn't,
Miracast,
yeah, whatever. I do have to think, too, that they finally, one of the reasons they didn't do it in the early days is they didn't have a great business model for it, right? They were still kind of in that old way of shipping software. And now that you can just pay monthly for their suite of stuff, it doesn't matter where you use it.
Yeah. Right. That's actually really smart. The Microsoft notion with Microsoft 365 is kind of the same thing. You can use whatever combination of devices you want. The stuff we have works on everything. But Photoshop, I mean, there's a big difference between a basic version of a word processor and a full-blown version of a really functional, heavy, graphics-rich, graphics program. I mean, I'm really curious to see what this looks like. Have they shown it off? Have you seen what it looks like?
Yeah, there were a couple publications that got to play with it a little bit. The real question is how full-featured is it? I mean, is it a direct replacement, a one-to-one? If that is true, that is incredible. I suspect that the early iterations might be lacking something, kind of almost like a Word online versus Word on desktop, and then they'll eventually get there.
Yeah.
But if it is a truly full-featured version of Photoshop, that's going to be nuts. And then it kind of raises the question about when is InDesign coming, when is Premiere coming. You'd have to think these things are all in the pipeline.
Can you imagine? And this is a really interesting thing because those A-series processors that Apple uses are really supposed to be fantastic from a performance perspective. So they should be able to run stuff like that. I guess the other thing to think about is there's those Affinity products, right? Affinity Photo, I think is what it's called. Yeah. Which looks a lot like Photoshop, like the full-blown version of Photoshop, which runs on iOS. So this kind of thing is, I mean, Apple talks a lot about post-PC and blah, 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 whatever, but, this is one of those steps that has to be taken before that becomes a reality. So, like you said, this is a big deal.
Yeah. And so A lot of big announcements, new Surfaces,
Hmm.
new Palms, new Photoshops, all for a Monday morning. I'm gonna say we just take the rest of the week off.
Sounds good to me.
So
Oh boy.
it is getting late. Well, what time is it? You're 5 hours ahead, right?
It's almost 4:30 here. Yeah, yeah, it's we're so off today. We got so little sleep the night before because of the whole early arrival thing.
Mm-hmm.
I probably slept for about 9 hours last night. But I think we're back on schedule, which is great because I'll be coming home in 3 days and I'd be screwed up for the rest of the month. Did you have a chance to play Black Ops?
No, I didn't buy it.
That hurts. Like in here.
You know what? I can't get into the battle royale mode. It's
See, I have heard, and I didn't try it post beta, but I've heard it's from some people who believe this might be the best battle royale game ever. I know.
see and I'm not even thinking from a PUBG perspective. I think Fortnite might disagree with that potentially.
Well, that's okay. Fair enough. But you might want to just read some reviews. The one thing I'm going to write up something about this today. I meant to do it Saturday. We ran out of time, etc. But I played it for a bunch the first 24 hours when I finally got it installed. 20 whatever that was, 43 gigabytes later. Um, it, it's it's kind of hard to explain, but the graphics are not cartoonish, but they're really HDR colorful, and they seem like they're not quite as realistic as the World War II game. And I think they did it to speed up the game. And just in standard like deathmatch, like the speed at which you run around is very fast. It's unusual for a Call of Duty game, and I think it's supposed to be like a halfway point between a traditional Call of Duty game and like those games where you're kind of jumping on walls and jetpacking around, and so they allow you to kind of run and jump over things very easily. And I think they're trying to bridge those two worlds, and it seems really successful to me. Like at first I was like, oh, this isn't exactly like the last one, and then I was like, actually, this might be better. It's got a neat feel to it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem is why I don't like it. PUBG is just a lot slower. I play with a group of people, and it's a lot more tactical, I guess, rather than run and gun.
Okay.
But Paul, here I was able to grab this image. This is the interface of the Palm phone.
By the way, when I saw that behind you as I was talking, and I thought that is clearly a joke image that is made to make fun of what this thing might look like, and it is. You're saying that's
the UI.
I assume it's based on Android.
It's absolutely based on Android. It does have facial login, but nobody really knows if it's any good.
It's just you just hold up a picture of a clown and it logs in.
And I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, this is like it scrolls up and down. It's almost like a Windows Mobile. What was that, like 6.5 that had that
What
honey?
it looks like is not the screen, but the body. It looks like the first iPhone.
Yeah.
It's got that weird kind of old-fashioned look to it.
Yep. So that's that. You got anything else for today, Paul?
No, I will write up the Call of Duty thing, like I said, just a first impressions thing. I didn't have a lot of time to screw around with it, but I did have some time. And then, I don't know, I've been looking around. I mean, it looks like the big stuff, which you already discussed, the Adobe Max, the Photoshop, the Palm thing, have all been covered by a resourceful coworker. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. What about you?
I don't know. I'm playing with the camera here. If I see how I get, I'm washed out, Paul. Now I'm normal.
Yeah, look at that. It's adjusting on the fly.
Look at that. Look at that modern technology. And I don't know. I'm trying to get this book. Actually, I played with Google. I actually texted Paul this. Google Apps and Google Docs really heavily this.
Please don't say this publicly.
Weekend. And
Go ahead.
And it worked like really well. Well, because one of the problems actually, Paul, is that so I wrote this in LeanPub's like editor online, which is great. It worked wonderfully. The problem is that there's no way to let anybody else in there to edit it. Yeah. And so I emailed them and said, hey, what's your recommendation? He said, actually, you can just port it over to Google Docs, and then you have each chapter as its own document, and you just kind of hit a couple buttons, and it pumps it into there. You have to do a little formatting. And then now when I'm ready to let Paul read this masterpiece or tragedy, whichever way you're looking at it.
Master tragedy.
Yeah, I can just share the folder, and he can read each page or each chapter as a document, and there we go. So
Okay.
yeah,
That's not the only problem with the Lean Pub editor, but yeah, I found going into it from, say, like a Word document, or getting stuff out of it from their own thing, is a little difficult. It's actually a big chunk of the reason why I use Markdown now.
yeah. Well,
Just
now I completely get it. And when I was chatting with them, they very explicitly said, "Please don't ever use Word."
Oh, it's terrible. You would
Yeah.
think that importing from Word would be the most basic thing in the world if you're writing something, and it's one thing they just don't do well.
Yeah, it's because it copies, when you copy content out of Word, it retains the underlying formatting. And when
Yep.
you paste it in, it doesn't know what to do with that formatting, and it just creates a really, really
Oh,
bad mess.
actually, yeah. I mean, not to get them off the hook, but if you ever like paste from Word into, like, say, the WordPress editor and look at the code, it's like this
Yep,
crazy
that's the exact issue.
awfulness.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, folks. Well, that wraps it up for today. We'll be back probably tomorrow, as long as Paul is still above ground and not too drunk off of the Jameson that he's been texting me. And have yourselves a wonderful day, and we'll catch you back here next time.